Jack Miller floated outside the International Space Station. His breathing sounded loud inside his helmet. He focused on fixing the broken panel in front of him. This was supposed to be a normal day at work. Jack was just a maintenance engineer, doing his job. Nothing special. "How's it going out there, Jack?" The voice of Mission Control crackled in his ear. "Almost done," Jack replied. His gloved hands worked carefully with the tools. "Just need a few more minutes." The Earth looked beautiful below him. Blue oceans, green and brown land, and swirling white clouds. Jack never got tired of the view. He had been an engineer for NASA for 5 years now. At 32 years old, he had achieved his childhood dream of working in space. Suddenly, something strange happened. The stars around him seemed to blur. A weird ripple appeared in the space in front of him. Jack had never seen anything like it before. "Control, are you seeing this?" Jack asked, his voice tense. No answer came back. The radio was silent. The ripple grew larger. It looked like water, but wasn't wet. It was like the fabric of space itself was folding. "Control? Anyone?" Jack tried again. Still nothing. Before he could react, the ripple expanded and swallowed him. Jack felt a pulling sensation, like being sucked through a straw. His stomach turned. His vision went black. Then came pain, sharp and hot, throughout his entire body. When Jack opened his eyes, he wasn't in space anymore. He wasn't anywhere he recognized. He lay on a smooth floor that seemed to shift colors beneath him. The walls around him curved in ways that didn't make sense. They appeared to move slightly, like they were breathing. The ceiling was high above, but sometimes it looked close enough to touch. Jack's spacesuit was gone. Instead, he wore a simple gray jumpsuit with a number printed on the chest, 11,385. "What the hell?" Jack whispered. His voice echoed strangely, as if the room was both very large and very small at the same time. He stood up. The gravity felt wrong, lighter than Earth, but heavier than the space station. Jack took a few steps. His movements felt weird, like walking through shallow water. A door appeared in the wall. It hadn't been there before. Jack was sure of it. The door slid open, revealing a long hallway that seemed to stretch forever. With no other options, Jack walked through the door. The hallway was filled with cells. But these weren't normal prison cells. Some had walls made of energy. Others looked like they contained small pieces of different worlds. A cell with a miniature ocean, another with what looked like liquid fire. And the prisoners, Jack stopped and stared. They weren't human. Not even close. In one cell, a creature made of blue light floated in midair. In another, something with 12 arms and no visible head tapped a pattern against the wall. Further down, a massive being that looked like a small mountain sat perfectly still. As Jack walked slowly past the cells, the prisoners noticed him. They came to the edges of their cells. They stared. Some made noises, clicks, hums, roars. Jack's heart pounded. Sweat ran down his back. This couldn't be real. Maybe he was dying outside the space station, and this was some weird dream his oxygen-starved brain had created. A sound behind him made Jack turn around. A robot floated there, about the size of a basketball. It had no limbs, just a single glowing eye. "Prisoner 11,385, the robot said in a flat voice. "You are out of your cell during non-designated movement period. Return to your assigned space immediately." "I don't know what you're talking about," Jack said. "I don't belong here." "There's been a mistake." The robot's eye flashed red. "Failure to comply will result in correction. Return to your cell." "Listen to me," Jack insisted. "I'm a human from Earth. I was working on the International Space Station. Something happened, some kind of space anomaly. I need to contact my people." The robot hovered silently for a moment. Then it said, "Species identification, human. Origin, Earth, Sol System, Spiral Arm 16. Threat level, minimal. Classification error detected. Please remain in place for supervisor assessment." The robot zoomed away, leaving Jack alone in the hallway, with the strange prisoners watching him. A few minutes later, a different figure approached. This one looked almost human, except its skin was a deep purple, and it had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. It wore a uniform with symbols Jack didn't recognize. "I am Sentinel Oryx," the figure said. Its voice was deep and smooth. "I am the warden of this facility. You claim to be human?" "Yes," Jack said, relieved that someone seemed willing to listen. "My name is Jack Miller. I'm from Earth. I was working in space when something pulled me here, whatever this place is." "This place," Sentinel Oryx said, "is the Void Fortress, the most secure prison in the known universe. It houses the most dangerous criminals from across all galaxies." Jack felt cold. "There's been a mistake. I'm not a criminal." "No mistake has been made," Oryx replied. "Our systems detected a breach in dimensional stability. You were pulled through during a security malfunction. But now that you are here, you must stay." "That's crazy," Jack said. "I'm not dangerous. I need to go home." Oryx's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "No one leaves the Void Fortress. That is the first rule, the only rule that matters." "But I'm human," Jack protested. "We're not even part of whatever galactic system." "You have here." "That is correct," Oryx said. "Humans are not yet part of the galactic concord. Your species is still in its infancy. Primitive, limited, which makes your presence here puzzling." A smaller alien hurried up to them. It had a thin body and large head with no mouth. It communicated by tapping its fingers together, making clicking sounds. Oryx listened, then turned back to Jack. "Our systems administrator, Zex, informs me that the security breach coincided with a solar flare from a nearby star. A rare event. The probability of a human being caught in such a rift is extremely low. You are either very unlucky or very lucky, depending on your perspective." "Please," Jack said, "just let me go home." "Impossible," Oryx stated. "The Void Fortress exists in a pocket dimension. The entrance point shifts constantly to prevent escape. Even if we wanted to release you, the path that brought you here no longer exists." Jack felt despair wash over him. "So I'm trapped here? Forever?" "Yes," Oryx said simply. "You are now prisoner 11,385. You will be assigned a cell appropriate for your species. You will learn the rules. You will adapt." "Or what?" Jack asked. Oryx's upper eyes narrowed. "Those who do not adapt do not survive. The Void Fortress contains beings who have destroyed entire solar systems, beings who have committed genocide across galaxies. Compared to them, you are nothing. Remember that." As Oryx led Jack deeper into the prison, they passed more cells with more impossible creatures. Some watched Jack with what seemed like curiosity, others with what could only be hunger. Jack realized that he was now farther from home than any human had ever been, not just in distance, but in reality itself. He was trapped in a prison built for monsters, surrounded by the worst criminals the universe had ever known, and somehow he would have to find a way to survive. 6 months passed in the Void Fortress. Jack Miller's cell was small, but designed to meet human needs. It had a bed, a toilet, and a shower that sprayed something that wasn't quite water, but cleaned just as well. The walls changed color-based on his mood, though Jack never figured out how they knew what he was feeling. Every day followed the same pattern. Wake up when the lights turned on. Eat the bland food that appeared through a slot in the wall. Exercise in the small space to keep. his body strong. Then came work duty, followed by free time in the common area, then back to his cell when the lights dimmed out at first. Jack had tried to escape. He studied the guards' movements, tested the walls for weak spots, and asked endless questions about the prison's layout. But he soon realized that escape was impossible. The Void Fortress didn't exist in normal space. There was nowhere to escape to Dot, so Jack adapted. He learned to navigate the prison's strange, shifting corridors that sometimes led to different places depending on the day. He learned which guards were strict and which ones could be reasoned with. Most importantly, he learned about his fellow prisoners. Today, Jack sat in the common area, a vast space with tables and chairs that adjusted to fit the bodies of whatever creatures sat in them. Jack's table was low to the ground because of who he sat with. The problem is the oxygen mixture, Jack explained to Zex, the silicon-based alien who worked as the prison systems administrator. Zex had 6 thin arms and a large, bulbous head with compound eyes like an insect. If they adjusted it by just 2%, the humans in cell block C would stop getting headaches. Zex clicked his fingers together, his way of speaking. Jack had learned to understand this language over months of conversation. Interesting, Jack said, responding to the clicks. I didn't know the system was that old. But it can still be calibrated, right? More clicking. I understand security is the priority, but healthy prisoners are less likely to cause problems. Jack had become a sort of translator between the human prisoners and the prison staff. There weren't many humans in the Void Fortress, just 7 that Jack had found so far, all of them explorers or scientists who, like him, had been in the wrong place at the wrong time. None of them had been there more than a year. Jack was the only one who had learned to communicate effectively with the non-human entities. Across the common area, a large creature rose from its table. It looked like a bear made of stone, with crystals growing from its back. It roared and flipped its table over. Guards rushed in floating robots with stun weapons. Before they could reach the stone creature, another prisoner stepped between them. This one was tall and slim, with 4 arms and skin that shifted between shades of green. It was Crag, a warrior from some distant world. Crag spoke to the stone creature in a low, rumbling language. The creature growled but sat down. The guards hovered nearby, weapons ready. Jack watched with interest. Crag had done this before calmed situations, before they exploded into violence. It was strange to see in a prison full of the galaxy's worst criminals that another prisoner glided over to Jack's table. This one was made of light, a glowing humanoid shape that flickered and pulsed. Her name was Lumina, and she had once been worshipped as a god on 1,000 worlds before her powers drove her mad. The stone one is new, Lumina said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in Jack's mind. He does not yet understand the rules. Which rules? Jack asked. The prison's or ours? Both, Lumina replied. The official rules keep us contained. Our rules keep us alive. The unofficial rules had developed among the prisoners themselves. Don't fight over food. Respect personal space. Help those who are struggling to adapt. These rules weren't enforced by guards, but by prisoners like Crag and Lumina, the ones who had been there longest and had the most respect. Jack had been surprised to discover that many of the inmates didn't want to escape. They knew they had done terrible things. They accepted their punishment. What they wanted was to be treated fairly within the prison. Sentinel Oryx wants to see you, Zex clicked to Jack. Jack raised his eyebrows. Me? Why? More clicking. A special assignment? That's new. Jack stood and nodded goodbye to his friends. As he walked toward the exit, he noticed other prisoners watching him. Some nodded respectfully. Others looked away. Jack had gained a strange kind of status in the prison, a human who could talk to anyone, who solved small problems before they became big ones. Guards escorted Jack through twisting corridors to the administrative section. This part of the prison never changed its layout. The walls were white and smooth. The lighting was bright, but not harsh. Sentinel Oryx waited in a room with a large desk. The four-eyed alien looked tired, if that was possible for his species. Prisoner 11,385, Oryx said formally. You can call me Jack, Jack reminded him. Very well, Jack. I have a situation that requires your unique perspective. I'm listening. Oryx gestured to a screen on the wall. It showed a cell where a small blue creature huddled in the corner, shaking violently. This is immersion, Oryx explained. Brought in yesterday for destroying a space station. Killed 400 people. But now it will not eat or respond to questions. If it dies in custody, there will be ... diplomatic issues. Jack studied the alien on the screen. And you want me to talk to it? Why me? Because you understand fear, Oryx said simply. Most beings here were powerful on their worlds. They don't. No fear like you do. Jack nodded slowly. It was true. Compared to the other prisoners, he was weak. No special powers. No enhanced strength. Just a human with human limitations. But that meant he understood what it was like to feel helpless. I'll try, Jack said. Guards took him to the immersion cell. Up close, the alien looked even smaller, about the size of a child. Its skin was blue and seemed to be covered in tiny scales. It had large, black eyes that took up most of its face. Jack sat down on the floor, keeping his distance. Hey there, he said softly. My name is Jack. I'm not a guard. I'm a prisoner, like you. The immersion didn't respond, but it's shaking. Lessened slightly. It's scary here at first, Jack continued. Everything's strange. The food tastes wrong. The air smells different. You don't know the rules yet. I get it. The alien's eyes flicked toward Jack, then away. I've been here 6 months, Jack said. I'm from Earth. Never even knew there were other intelligent species out there before I got pulled into this place. Talk about culture shock. The immersion made a small chirping sound. Yeah, exactly, Jack said, as if the alien had spoken. But here's the thing. It gets better. You adjust. You find people or whatever who help you figure things out. You're not alone. Over the next hour, Jack just talked. He told the immersion about Earth, about his job as an engineer, about his first terrifying days in the prison. Gradually, the alien relaxed. It uncurled from the corner and moved closer to Jack. When the guards brought food, the immersion finally ate as Jack left the cell. Oryx was waiting in the corridor. Impressive, the warden said. You have a gift for communication. Jack shrugged. Not really. I just remember what it was like to be the new guy. Oryx studied him with all 4 eyes. Perhaps there is more to humans than our records suggest. You adapt quickly. You build connections across species. These are rare traits. We're full of surprises, Jack said with a small smile. Indeed, Oryx agreed. I'm assigning you a new role. You will help integrate new prisoners, especially those from less advanced species. You will report directly to me. Jack realized what this meant: more freedom to move around the prison, access to more areas, contact with more prisoners. Why? Trust me with this? Jack asked. Because you have something the other prisoners lack, Oryx said. You have no desire for power or revenge. You simply want to survive. And you've learned that helping others is the best way to do that. As Jack walked back to his cell that night, he thought about Oryx's words. The warden was right. Jack had found a way to make himself valuable in this impossible place. He couldn't escape the Void Fortress, but maybe he could make his life here mean something. And maybe, just maybe, Being useful would keep him alive long enough to find a way home. 1 year had passed since Jack arrived at the Void Fortress. His new role gave him access to parts of the prison most inmates never saw. He helped new prisoners adjust, solved small problems between different species, and reported directly to Sentinel Oryx. The guards no longer followed him everywhere. They trusted him, at least a little. Today Jack walked through the maintenance section, checking systems that kept the prison running. This area was filled with pipes, cables, and strange machines that hummed with energy. Jack's background as an engineer made him useful here. "Try it now," Jack called to Zex, who was working on a control panel nearby. Zex clicked his fingers rapidly and adjusted something inside the panel. The lights in the corridor brightened. "Perfect," Jack said. "The humans in Block D will be happy. They've been complaining about the dim lighting for weeks." As Zex closed the panel, Jack noticed a door he hadn't seen before. It was small and half hidden behind a large pipe. There was no lock that he could see. "What's in there?" Jack asked, pointing to the door. Zex clicked nervously and moved away from the door. "Restricted? Why?" Jack asked. "It's just another maintenance room, right?" More clicking, faster this time. "You've never been inside either?" "That's strange." Jack's curiosity was strong. After a year of exploring the prison, he thought he knew all its main areas. A door that even Zex couldn't access was unusual. "Let's finish the lighting check in Block E," Jack said, pretending to lose interest in the door. They worked for a few more hours. Jack kept his questions casual, asking about different parts of the maintenance system. Slowly, he learned that the restricted door led to a separate section of the prison. Even the regular guards didn't go there. Only special staff with high clearance had access. When their shift ended, Zex left to attend to other duties. Jack waited until he was alone, then returned to the mysterious door. He examined it carefully. There was no obvious way to open it, no handle, no button, no keypad. Jack pressed his hand against the door. Nothing happened. He pushed harder. Still nothing. He was about to give up when he noticed a small symbol etched into the wall beside the door. It looked like a swirl with 3 dots above it. Jack had seen this symbol before on the badges worn by the highest-ranking prison officials. On a hunch, Jack traced the symbol with his finger. The door slid open silently. Heart pounding. Jack slipped inside. The door closed behind him. He found himself in a narrow corridor that sloped downward. The walls here were different from the rest of the prison, darker, older looking. The air felt colder. Jack moved cautiously. There were no guards in sight, but small cameras were mounted at intervals along the ceiling. Jack kept his head down, hoping the cameras wouldn't recognize him as an unauthorized person. The corridor ended at another door. This one had a small window. Jack peered through it and gasped. Beyond the door was a vast room filled with what looked like laboratory equipment. Clear containers lined the walls. Each container held something different: a swirling gas, a piece of rock that glowed, a small creature floating in liquid. In the center of the room, several beings in white uniforms worked at stations. They weren't guards. They looked more like scientists. And on tables throughout the room lay prisoners. Some Jack recognized, others he had never seen before. They appeared to be unconscious. Various machines were attached to them, taking samples, scanning them, or doing things Jack couldn't understand. Jack pulled back from the window, his mind racing. This wasn't just a prison. It was a research facility. The Galactic Concord wasn't just containing dangerous criminals. They were studying them. Jack needed to see more, but he couldn't risk going through the next door. Instead, he searched for another way to observe. He found a maintenance shaft that ran alongside the laboratory. Through small vents, he could see and hear what was happening inside. The human subjects continued to show remarkable adaptability. One scientist said. This one looked almost human, except for the ridges on its forehead. Especially subject 11,385. His brain patterns show unusual problem-solving capabilities. Jack froze. They were talking about him. Yes, but is he weaponizable? Another scientist asked. This one was tall and thin with gray skin. The Concorde doesn't. Need more diplomats. They need weapons. Everything is potentially weaponizable, the first scientist replied. Even adaptation. Imagine soldiers who could survive any environment, communicate with any species, gain trust easily. Jack felt sick. The scientists weren't trying to understand prisoners, they were trying to use them. To copy their abilities, or find ways to turn those abilities into weapons. He watched as they took samples from a large, insect-like prisoner. They extracted something glowing from its body, then injected the substance into a small, rat-like creature. The rat immediately grew spines all over its body. Successful transfer, one scientist noted. Add it to the viable list. Jack had seen. Enough. He backed away from the vent and began making his way back up the corridor. His mind was full of questions. Did Sentinel Oryx know about this? Were all prisons run by the Galactic Concorde actually research facilities? How many prisoners were being used as lab rats? As Jack neared the exit door, he heard voices approaching from the other side. He pressed himself against the wall, hoping whoever it was would pass by. The door slid open. 2 guards entered, followed by Sentinel Oryx himself. Jack had nowhere to hide. Prisoner 11,385, Oryx said, his 4 eyes widening in surprise. You are not authorized to be in this area. I got lost, Jack lied. I was checking the lighting systems with Zex and took a wrong turn. Oryx stared at him. A wrong turn through a secured door? I think not. You have seen things you were not meant to see. I didn't see anything, Jack insisted. The cameras suggest otherwise. Oryx nodded to the guards. Take him to isolation. Level 3 security protocols. The guards grabbed Jack's arms. He didn't resist. There was no point. Why? Jack asked Oryx as the guards began to pull him away. Why experiment on prisoners? Isn't imprisonment enough? Oryx's expression didn't change. The Void Fortress serves multiple purposes. Containment is only one of them. The beings here possess abilities that could benefit the Concorde or threaten it if left unchecked. We're not lab rats, Jack said. We have rights. You forfeited your rights when you entered this facility, Oryx replied. I didn't choose to. Come here, Jack shouted as the guards dragged him down the corridor. None of the humans did. Oryx watched him go, all 4 eyes blinking slowly. Nevertheless, here you are. And here you will remain, prisoner 11,385. But now, your purpose has changed. The guards took Jack to a part of the prison he had never seen before, the isolation cells. Unlike the regular cells, these existed in pocket dimensions, tiny universes, created just to hold one prisoner. Time moved differently there. What felt like days might be hours, or what felt like hours might be weeks dot as they prepared to transfer him into isolation. Jack made eye contact with other prisoners being led through the corridors. He tried to convey a message with his eyes. Something is wrong here. Remember me. Tell the others. The last face he saw before entering isolation was Lumina, the being of light. She flickered briefly, a pattern Jack recognized as her way of showing understanding. Then the isolation field closed around him, and Jack was alone in a white room with no doors and no windows, cut off from everyone and everything. Time lost all meaning in the isolation cell. Jack paced the small white space, counting steps to keep his mind busy. 7 steps from wall to wall, 7 steps back, over and over, There was a bed that rose from the floor when needed. Food appeared on a small table 3 times a day, though Jack couldn't tell if days here matched days in the rest of the prison. The light never changed. It was always the same bright white. Jack tried to keep track of time by counting meals. By his count, he had been in isolation for 23 days when the wall suddenly rippled and a door appeared. Sentinel Oryx stepped through. The 4-eyed alien looked at Jack with an expression that might have been concern. "You appear unwell, prisoner 11,385. Oryx said. Jack hadn't seen himself in weeks, but he could feel that he had lost weight. His beard had grown long. His jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. "Isolation affects humans more severely than other species," Jack said, his voice rough from lack of use. "We're social creatures, so I've observed," Oryx replied. "Your punishment is complete. You will return to the general population." Jack was surprised. He had expected to be in isolation much longer for what he had discovered. "Why now?" he asked. "Circumstances have changed," Oryx said. "Follow me." Jack followed Oryx through the door, squinting as they entered a normal corridor. After the blank whiteness of isolation, even the dull colors of the prison hallways seemed bright and vibrant dot as they walked. Jack noticed something strange. There were fewer guards than before. The ones he did see looked tense, watching the prisoners with extra caution. "What's happened?" Jack asked Oryx. "There has been unrest," Oryx replied carefully. "After your discovery and punishment, rumors spread. Some prisoners became difficult to manage." Jack felt a spark of hope. "They know about the experiments?" "Yes," Oryx admitted. "Your friends the Silicon being Zex, the light entity Lumina, and the warrior Crag, they have become leaders of a sort. They are organizing the other prisoners." "Organizing them to do what?" "To demand changes," Oryx said. "No more secret experiments. Better treatment. The right to refuse to participate in research." Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. "And you're letting this happen?" Oryx's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "The situation is complex. The Galactic Concord values the research conducted here, but a prison rebellion would destroy years of work and potentially release dangerous criminals into the galaxy." They reached the common area. Jack stopped at the entrance, shocked by what he saw. Large room had been transformed. Tables had been pushed together to form a central platform. Prisoners of all shapes and sizes gathered around it. At the center stood Zex, Lumina, and Crag, addressing the crowd. When Jack entered, the room fell silent. Then Crag raised all 4 of his arms and shouted something in his rumbling language. The prisoners cheered. Lumina floated toward Jack, her light body pulsing with bright colors. "The human returns," she said, her voice chiming in Jack's mind. "We feared you were lost." "To us, they put me in isolation," Jack explained. "But I'm back now." "Your discovery changed everything," Lumina said. "Many here suspected the truth, but none had seen the evidence until you found it." Zex approached, clicking his fingers rapidly. Jack had to concentrate to understand the fast pattern. "A coalition?" Jack asked. "You formed an alliance of prisoners?" "More." Clicking. "Not just to stop the experiments, but to change the whole prison system. That's ambitious." Crag joined them, towering over Jack. The 4-armed warrior had scars across his green skin and a serious expression. "Human," he said in his deep voice, "you showed courage. You saw truth. Now you help us speak to wardens." "Me?" Jack asked. "Why me? You understand both sides," Lumina explained. "You know the prison authorities. You know the prisoners. You can translate not just words but ideas." Jack looked around at the gathered prisoners. These were beings who had committed terrible crimes. Some had destroyed worlds. Others had killed millions. Yet here they were, organized and peaceful, asking for fair treatment. What exactly do you want? Jack asked. ZEX clicked the long sequence. A list of demands, Jack translated for the others. No more secret experiments without consent. Better living conditions. The right to communicate with the outside. And Jack paused, surprised by the last item. A review of all human prisoners to determine if they should be released, since humans aren't officially part of the Galactic Concord. Jack turned to Zex. You included that for me? For the other humans? Zex clicked softly. Because we don't belong. Here, Jack said, touched by the gesture. Thank you. Sentinel Oryx, who had been standing quietly nearby, stepped forward. The Concord representatives will arrive tomorrow to assess the situation. They will want to speak with prisoner representatives. And if they refuse the demands? Crag asked. I cannot predict their response, Oryx said. But I advise cooperation, rather than confrontation. The Void Fortress has security measures that even I cannot control. After Oryx left, Jack sat with the three leaders and helped them prepare for the meeting. They needed to be clear, reasonable, and united. Why did they release me from isolation now? Jack wondered aloud. Just in time for this meeting? They need you, Lumina said. The Concord representatives don't understand many of us. You speak their language. You think like them. They want to use me as a translator? Jack asked. More than that, Crag said. They fear what we might do if pushed too far. You are ... What is human word? Moderating influence. Jack nodded slowly. They think you'll listen to me. That I can. Keep things calm. And they are correct, Lumina said, her light dimming slightly. We value your counsel, Jack Miller. You have survived here, despite having no special powers or abilities. You have earned respect. The next day, Jack stood with Zex, Lumina, and Crag in a large conference room. They waited for the Galactic Concord representatives to arrive. Jack felt nervous. His future, and possibly the futures of all the humans trapped in the Void Fortress, depended on this meeting. If it went badly, he might end up back in isolation, or worse. The door opened. Three beings entered, followed by Sentinel Oryx. The representatives didn't look like any species Jack had seen before. One was tall and thin, with skin like polished metal. Another floated a few inches above the ground, its body covered in what looked like blue feathers. The third was small and round, with multiple eyes that moved independently of each other. Prisoners of the Void Fortress, the metal-skinned one said. I am Elder Voss of the Galactic Concord High Council. We have received reports of unrest in this facility. Explain yourselves. Jack took a deep breath and stepped forward. My name is Jack Miller. I'm a human from Earth. I was accidentally pulled into the Void Fortress during a spatial anomaly. I represent the Prisoner Coalition. Elder Voss studied. Jack with glowing eyes. A human? Interesting. Your species is not yet part of the Concord. Your presence here is ... irregular. That's one of the issues we want to discuss, Jack said. But there's something more important first. The Void Fortress isn't just a prison. It's a research facility where prisoners are experimented on without their knowledge or consent. These experiments serve the greater good, the feathered representative said. The abilities of these dangerous criminals are studied to develop defenses against similar threats. We're not saying all research should stop, Jack explained. We're saying prisoners should have the right to know what's happening to them and to refuse certain types of experiments. Criminals forfeit rights when they commit crimes, the round representative said, its many eyes blinking. Even criminals have basic rights, Jack argued. And some of us, like the humans here, never committed any crimes at all. We were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. For hours, they debated. Jack presented the coalition's demands. The representatives pushed back. Zex provided data on prisoner treatment. Lumina spoke about the emotional impact of the experiments. Crag described how a fair system would be more stable and secure. As the meeting went on, Jack noticed something surprising. Elder Voss was actually listening. The metal-skinned representative asked questions, considered answers, and seemed troubled by some of what he heard. Finally, Elder Voss raised a hand for silence. "We will consider your demands. There is wisdom in some of what you say. V. Concord prizes justice as well as security. Perhaps in our focus on containing dangers, we have overlooked certain ethical considerations." It wasn't a victory, but it was a beginning. As the representatives left to discuss the demands in private, Jack felt a glimmer of hope. For the first time since arriving at the Void Fortress, he believed that things could change. That even in this prison at the edge of reality, housing the worst criminals in the universe, there was a chance for fairness and dignity. And maybe, just maybe, a chance for him to go home. 3 months had passed since the meeting with the Galactic Concord representatives. The Void Fortress had changed in ways Jack never thought possible. The secret laboratory was now open to all prisoners. Those who wanted to participate in research could do so with full knowledge of what tests would be done and the right to refuse. Those who didn't want to participate were left alone. Jack sat in what used to be the common area but was now called the Assembly Hall. Prisoners gathered in groups, talking freely. Guards still watched from the edges of the room, but they were fewer in number and less threatening. Zex approached Jack's table, clicking his fingers in greeting. "Yes, the new communication system is working well," Jack replied. "The humans in Lot D can now send messages to their families. The signals are heavily monitored, of course, but it's better than nothing." More clicking. "I agree," Jack said. "Elder Voss has been surprisingly helpful. I didn't expect the Concord to actually listen to us." The tall, metal-skinned Elder Voss had become their most important ally. After hearing the prisoners' demands, he had ordered a full review of the Void Fortress operations. When he discovered the extent of the unauthorized experiments, he had been genuinely disturbed. Now he visited regularly to ensure the new policies were being followed. Lumina floated over, her light body glowing softly. "Jack Miller, you are needed in the communication center," she said. "There is a transmission for you." Jack raised his eyebrows in surprise. "For me? From who?" "Earth," Lumina replied. Jack's heart raced as he hurried to the communication center. This was a new area of the prison, created after the reforms. It contained technology that could send and receive messages across vast distances, even between dimensions. Sentinel Oryx was waiting for him. The four-eyed warden's attitude toward Jack had changed over the past months. There was a new respect in his manner. "Prisoner 11,385 Jack," Oryx corrected himself. "We have established contact with your planet. A transmission is coming through now." The screen on the wall flickered. Jack held his breath. Then an image appeared, a woman in a uniform with the NASA logo. She had brown hair pulled back and a serious expression that changed to shock when she saw Jack. "Jack Miller? Is that really you?" she asked. "Yes," Jack said, his voice shaking. "I'm alive. Who am I speaking with?" "Commander Lara West, International Space Station Mission Control. You've been missing for almost 2 years. Your family thinks you're dead." Jack felt tears form in his eyes. "I'm not dead. I'm in a place called the Void Fortress. It's a prison in another dimension. I was pulled through a spatial anomaly during my spacewalk." Commander West looked stunned. "We detected an unusual energy pattern when you disappeared, but we had no idea. Are you okay? Are you being treated well?" "I am now," Jack said. "It was rough at first. This place houses the worst criminals in the universe. but things have improved. We've made changes here." Jack explained what had happened over the past year and a half: his accidental imprisonment, his discovery of the experiments, the formation of the prisoner coalition, and the reforms that followed. "The Galactic Concord has agreed to review the cases of all humans here," Jack finished. "There are 8 of us total. They're considering sending us home since Earth isn't officially part of their system." "This is incredible," Commander West said. "We need to inform the government immediately. If there's a way to bring you home." "That's why I wanted to talk to Earth," Jack said. "The Concord representatives are willing to establish formal contact with our planet. They want to speak with our leaders." "About what?" Commander West asked. "About Earth joining the Galactic Concord," Jack explained. "It would happen slowly, over decades probably, but it would mean protection, new technology, and knowledge about the universe we never imagined." "And what would Earth have to give in return?" "Agreement to follow certain laws. No planet-destroying weapons. No genocide. Basic stuff that decent people already believe in," Jack said. "And they want me to help with the transition." "You, Commander?" West looked surprised. "I understand both sides now," Jack said. "I'm human, but I've lived among aliens. I know how the Concord works. I could be a bridge between Earth and the rest of the galaxy." The conversation continued for nearly an hour. Commander West asked more questions. Jack provided as many details as he could. Finally, she promised to take everything to the highest levels of government. "We'll be in touch soon," she said. "And Jack ... your sister never gave up hope. She's going to be overjoyed." When the transmission ended, Jack sat quietly, overwhelmed with emotion. After all this time, Earth knew he was alive. His family would know the truth. And maybe, just maybe, he had found his true purpose. Elder Voss entered the communications room. The tall, metallic alien moved with a fluid grace despite his size. "I monitored the transmission," Voss said. "Your people seem reasonable. Most of them are," Jack replied. "Like any species, we have our good and bad individuals." "The Concord is interested in Earth," Voss said. "Your world is at a critical development stage. In a few centuries, you could become a threat to galactic stability or a valuable member of our community." "And you want me to help make sure it's the second option," Jack said. "Yes," Voss confirmed. "You would be what we call a transition guide. You would spend time on Earth, explaining Concord principles, and time here, helping us understand humans. It is a position of great honor." "What about the other humans here?" Jack asked. "Would they go home?" "Those who wish to return may do so," Voss said. "Their memories of this place would be modified for security reasons, but they would be safely returned to points near their disappearances." Jack thought about what this meant. He could go home, see his family and friends again. But he would also have a new role, a new purpose, helping Earth find its place in a much larger community. Later that day, Jack met with his friends, Zex, Lumina, and Krag in a quiet corner of the assembly hall. "So you will leave us," Krag said, his deep voice tinged with sadness. "Not permanently," Jack explained. "I'll divide my time between Earth and here. I'll be a messenger between worlds." "You have earned this honor," Lumina said, her light pulsing warmly. "You changed this place when you had no power except your mind and your words." Zex clicked the long, complex pattern that made Jack smile. "Yes," Jack agreed. "It is ironic. A prison built for the worst criminals in the universe, accidentally trapped. A human, and that accident might lead to Earth joining a galactic community we never knew existed." Jack looked around at the Void Fortress, at the strange beings who had become his friends, at the place that had been his home for nearly 2 years. What had started as a nightmare had transformed into something unexpected. He had found strength he never knew he had. He had made a difference in a place where differences seemed impossible, and now he would help build a bridge between his old world and this new, vast universe. Jack Miller, ordinary maintenance engineer, had become something he never imagined, an ambassador to the stars.